Dr. Amina here. Hello and welcome. Today we're going to discuss a scenario that I know tens of thousands of people find themselves in, and in the United States and in the world, probably hundreds of thousands. And this is a situation where a lot of people find themselves gaining weight year after year, even though they are doing everything they are told to do by their healthcare professionals. So this scenario is of a person, let's just call it a man, who is in his 70s and still working because, he's a professional and he enjoys what he does, but he has prediabetes, was diagnosed with prediabetes a few years ago, has high blood pressure, has high cholesterol. And what he has been struggling with, especially over the past 2 years, is weight gain. And specifically, he's actually gained not just, 4 or 5, but 12 pounds over the past 2 years. And I know that happened to a lot of people. People call it the COVID 20, 20 pounds during COVID. But anyway, he has gained all this weight. And what he gets told every time he goes to the doctor, which, by the way, is a fancy doctor at an academic, Ivy League medical center. So even those fancy institutions give the same old advice that everybody else is getting, right? The advice he's been getting is, make sure you eat on time, 3 times per day, breakfast and dinner, low fat meals, also low salt because he has high blood pressure, right? And so he's doing that, get in all your steps. So he's getting 10,000 steps in per day. And yet he continues to gain weight to the point where he's over 230 pounds. And of course, this is a smart man, he's professional, so it's not as if he doesn't, have a degree of awareness. But he's doing all this and still putting on basically a pound every 2 months, 6 pounds a year, 12 pounds in 2 years' time. And in the space of 2 years' time, his A1C, which is the test to check his blood sugar levels, and in his case, he's been in the pre-diabetes range, but his A1C, unfortunately, has steadily gone up from 5.8 to 6 to 6.3 now, okay? And this is even though he's doing all the things that he's been told to do. So we're going to talk about what could it be that he is missing, right? What is it that's causing him to essentially not achieve his goals? His A1C is going in the right direction. Every time he goes to the doctor, his blood pressure is high, 150s, over 90s, right? And he's getting all the steps and cutting down the fat and all, right? So it's going to be 5 things that I am going to talk about in terms of 5 things that this person can tweak. And so for those of you listening, you will probably find some of these little tweaks helpful for you as well. The first thing is breakfast. Now, does he really need breakfast? Does he need to eat 3 times per day? Everybody, we're all conditioned to think that, we need to eat breakfast as soon as we get up, we got to eat, and then we have to eat lunch, and, we have to eat dinner, and we have to eat some snacks in between, especially for people who might be pre-diabetic or diabetic. They're told, make sure you get those snacks in between plus food, plus a snack at bedtime, right? The thing about eating so frequently is that whenever you eat, unless it happens to be mostly, protein, fatty sort of diet, you are going to be stimulating the hormone that promotes fat storage, okay? So eating morning, noon, night, and then snacks in between means that you're almost constantly stimulating that fat storage hormone, which specifically is insulin, because most of the meals will contain starch, and oftentimes it's going to be very simple starch and not enough fiber to go with that starch to help slow down the absorption of the blood sugar, into your bloodstream, glucose, and therefore cause less of an increase in the fat storage hormone, which is insulin, right? So this is one of the things for this person, and probably for many of you, is that maybe he could consider not having breakfast first thing, or maybe even skipping it all together and then focusing on having big hearty lunch and maybe dinner, depending on how late in the day he's going to have his dinner, right? So that gives him 2 times in the day when he's going to be stimulating that fat storage hormone, but outside of lunch and dinner, so which would be essentially, maybe say he eats in an 8-hour window. So therefore he's going to have 16 hours of really nice, stable, normal, low insulin levels, right? So that's one of his things. Maybe he should consider not having the big breakfast, or if he has breakfast, he needs to really think carefully about, okay, maybe I should have breakfast that does not have any sugar or anything that's going to cause a dramatic stimulation of the fat storage hormone, insulin, right? What's the second thing that he could potentially, focus on? Now, he is very proud of the fact that, his Fitbit is showing that he takes 10,000 steps per day, but is that helping him that much? I mean, yes, it's good to be active and so on, but the thing about exercise, and especially the older you get, and he's in his 70s, is that you really want to prioritize exercise that's going to help preserve your muscle mass, or maybe even help you to build up a little more muscle mass. Because guess what? Having more muscle means that you can more efficiently utilize whatever sugar, glucose you're getting into your bloodstream, right? So that means that your insulin has, it's going to help the muscle cells to utilize the glucose. And so you're not going to have all that excess sugar floating around in your bloodstream and causing more and more of the fat storage hormone to be produced, because the muscles, are one of the big utilizers of glucose in our body. So if you have kind of wasting of your muscles, they're kind of getting smaller as you get older, it means that you have less need for sugar, glucose, and therefore less for the insulin to work on, okay? To less things for the insulin to say, oh, let's put away, let's use up some of the sugar and let's store some in the muscles. It will be glycogen. But basically, his 10,000 steps are probably not doing much to preserve or even generate more muscle mass for him. So that's another kind of area which he can work on. Now, the third one is that he is specifically being told to go low fat. Do not eat fat. Make sure you keep your fat levels down. But almost invariably, if you're going to choose fat-free food or low-fat food, well, something else is going to be in place of the fat. And usually in place of fat, there's going to be sugar or, refined starch or other fillers that could potentially trigger the same fat storage hormone, right? But oftentimes it's sugar and just refined starch in general. And so what he needs to do is realize that, fat should not be feared. If anything, unnaturally fat-free foods should be feared, right? So foods like, milk and yogurt and so on, where they unnaturally remove the fats. In a factory, the fat is removed, compared to naturally fat-containing foods like, dairy in its natural form with its fat. Because guess what? Dairy has carbohydrates. And so if you're having straight carbohydrates and maybe some protein, you're going to have more of a trigger of that same fat storage hormone compared to if you had your dairy with the naturally containing fat, because that naturally occurring fat or containing fat in your dairy with the carbohydrate and the protein is going to cause your blood sugar to go up much less than if you eat the straight carb with the protein, okay? So he needs to stop thinking, oh my goodness, I have to do low fat everything, because in place of fat is going to be something else. And what that is going to be is something that's going to cause his blood sugars to go up. And in his case, he's dealing with prediabetes, but at the same time, he's dealing with weight gain, and prediabetes, weight gain, all these things have the same root cause. He needs to have his naturally fatty foods, avocado, olives, olive oil. He can enjoy, good, grass-fed butter, okay? Or just, whole dairy, which has not been depleted of its naturally occurring fat. Of course, everything you want to do in moderation, so he's not going to go crazy on all these things, but really and truly, he needs to be careful about choosing fat-free everything, okay? Number 4, so his body mass index is more than 35. So normal is like, and these are kind of general ranges, but normal is up to 25, right? 24.9. He's over 230 pounds, high body mass index. Usually for persons who find themselves to be on the higher, bigger, okay, it means that they will have problems where there is kind of squeezing of the airways. So basically the neck is bigger, and like there's excess fat, squeezing the airways. And so when they go to sleep, they can lock off the airway. And what you have is a situation called sleep apnea, obstructive sleep apnea. And that's when there are these pauses during sleep, and then you only wake up when the brain triggers you to after carbon dioxide levels go up so high in the blood. Okay, so having sleep apnea, undiagnosed sleep apnea or untreated, some people are diagnosed but they're not treated. They don't go and get the machine or whatever device they need to get to help keep the airway open so that they can breathe efficiently and have a restful sleep. So without a restful sleep, you can essentially, you don't get restful sleep, and so that's a stressful situation for the body. And we know for a fact that having untreated sleep apnea is one of the things that can promote, persisting high sugar levels and just generally uncontrolled type 2 diabetes, worsening sleep apnea, and just worsening of overall health. Okay, so that's one of the things that would need to be addressed. I'm just kind of giving like a general scenario, because a lot of times people are diagnosed with sleep apnea, but they don't like the machine. It's very uncomfortable. It's something kind of squeezing you. And so a lot of people just choose not to wear it, not realizing that their health, in addition to sleep apnea, their health is going to be affected negatively in other ways, right? And then the last thing is that he actually chooses diet drinks because he's thinking, I have pre-diabetes, I need to choose diet drinks. Now, guess what? The artificial sweeteners in diet drinks, they feed the bad types of bacteria. Now, we're learning more and more about the microbiome. That's the good mix of bacteria in our intestines. And that microbiome, among so many other benefits, a good mix, a healthy mix of our microbiome helps us to maintain normal weight. And so we know that having certain types or excesses of certain types of bacteria promote excess weight, overweight, obesity, right? And then having more of the good types, the friendlier types of bacteria will help us to maintain normal weight. And so you have to, if you want to have, good concentrations of good bacteria, it means that you have to feed them. If they're fed, they're going to thrive. But if you don't feed the good types, but instead you feed the bad types, then the bad types are going to thrive, and then your health could be out of whack, including your weight could be out of whack. So one of the real important things that I always tell people, like when my clients that I have and help with just overall optimization of their diet so that they can get to a healthy weight and therefore avoid or reverse disease, is just forget about the artificial sweeteners. Forget about the diet drinks, okay? In fact, sometimes I even tell some people, depending on what the situation is, if you need a little sweet, have the regular sugars, right, rather than the diet sugar. Like I would choose the naturally occurring sugar over the diet sugar if there is a need. But then if you have access to the zero or zero calorie sweeteners, like natural ones, monk fruit is one of them, stevia, and you don't mind the aftertaste, and you can choose those instead, right? But definitely just forget about artificial sweeteners. Yes, they might not necessarily carry your blood sugar, but they're going to feed the bad bugs that will promote disease, okay? So those are the 5 things that this poor man and many other people in his situation can address, rather than the tired old advice, low fat, take 10,000 steps, low sodium. And I didn't even talk about the sodium and the sugar connection and high blood pressure, but that can be for another video. But essentially, consider skipping breakfast. If you don't feel hungry in the morning, you don't have to have breakfast, right? 10,000 steps probably wouldn't do that much to develop or maintain your muscle mass, and you need to prioritize development of or maintaining muscle mass. 3, forget about low fat. Low fat means high carb usually, right? 4, if there is if you're struggling with being overweight, there's a chance that you can have sleep apnea, and having untreated sleep apnea can keep or promote the overweight and promote weight gain. And then lastly, forget about diet drinks. I hope you all found this video helpful. I host a challenge, the Eat More, Weigh Less Challenge. I've run it 3 times already, and I'm planning to do it again this year. I haven't set a date yet, but if you're interested in the Eat More, Weigh Less Challenge, there's a link that you can click to get on the wait list and find out as soon as I open registration for the challenge, which is for anyone who is tired of the unreasonable advice which the same man is getting low fat, exercise, etc., but they find themselves gaining weight every single year steadily. And guess what? The numbers are high. Blood pressure is going up, blood sugars are going up, everything is going in the wrong direction. So this is the challenge, to show you what is it you can do to help achieve your goals in 2023 and beyond. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions, put them in the comments and I will definitely respond to them. Otherwise, if you found this video helpful and you think somebody else would benefit from it, please feel free to share and subscribe to my channel as well. Bye-bye.